Yeah, it's really quite lovely out. Yeah, lovely day. Wonderful, wonderful. Alright, gloves. So yes, it's winter again. Damn. Officially. Yeah, now. Yeah. Shouldn't complain. It's not a foot of snow, so it's gonna turn to rain, probably as I'm walking. Anyway, Hythloday. Huh. No, let's not even bother saying his name. So I'll play his video. I'll clip it on this video. I'll play his video. I just listened to the first minute, and it was just, you could just see it's not going anywhere good. And the title, he puts the word religious in the title again. It's just, so it's a religious concept. To accept that consciousness is fundamentally different than everything else in the universe, and that the fundamental difference is that it creates something of real quality. The quality of our sensations, our the quality that underlies all other definitions of quality. The very fact that we can say something has quality, or is of quality, or of value, is because the fact that we feel it. We feel good when our team wins, and bad when our team loses. That defines the goodness and the badness of the event of winning or losing. It wouldn't mean anything if we didn't express that sensation as a consequence of the outcome. The outcome, the effect on a feeling thing, is what defines and describes all value. That's, in his opinion, a religious statement. So that's the credibility of his, the integrity of his logic and intelligence is demonstrated in the fact that he would use a word like religion to describe that conclusion based on the evidence of looking at the world. So you look at the world and you say, yes, there's a big difference between brainless tree and human being. What's the big difference? Oh yeah, big brain. Yeah, that's religion. So, it just makes it obvious that he has no integrity as a speaker of he has no honesty. So it's just, he couldn't possibly be honest in this description, because he knows that religion comes with a whole class of descriptors for which my philosophy could not possibly fit in those categories. The whole, usually from antiquity, usually involving a deity, supernatural events, all of that stuff. None of those are in this simple conclusion that consciousness, as I experience it, is fundamentally different than non-consciousness. And, gee, how religious of me. So it's just, whatever. So that's the good thing, is that it comes down to, is you can't have a philosophical conversation with people who you can't have agreeable premises. Even for the sake of argument, they will not agree to the premises in the form that you've stated them. So you can never escape their, it's just a matrix catch. That it's, what, you mean something, electricity in your brain has some significance? There's electricity in my clock. Therefore, electricity is benign. My clock doesn't feel anything, so therefore you can't possibly be feeling anything because it's just electricity in your brain. This kind of crap. So if you can't have an agreeable premise that the fact of our consciousness is really not subject to any kind of reductionism that makes any sense. You can reduce it to parts, you can reduce it to physics, you can reduce it to photons, But you can't unravel the fact of it, that regardless of how, the fact of it is just a fact. You can't, you know, yes, you can make photons unconscious, you can make molecules unconscious, you can make electricity unconscious. But obviously the combination of those ingredients in brains creates a quite unique phenomenon in terms of there's nothing like consciousness that I can compare it to. There's nothing I can find that has anything similar to consciousness. So, but I guess, like I said, well, I can't imagine existing in the world and saying, I'm going to pretend I'm not conscious. I'm going to pretend that the most important feature of my, whatever this is, my thinking, my living, my everything about what I'm doing, I'm supposed to pretend it's not really happening. I'm pretend I don't feel the rain, pretend it doesn't have a perfectly coherent sensation. No, I'm not going to do that. Why do I want to do that? So yeah, you want me for the sake of argument to pretend? I'll do it for the sake of argument. I'll pretend it all doesn't mean anything, and then I'll say, why am I having a philosophical conversation then? Because absolutely nothing could mean anything. So yeah, if you want to not have a philosophical conversation, you want to say philosophy is meaningless, say it. Don't waste people's time pretending like you have something to say that means something, and then say, but I'm negating consciousness. I'm negating its existence as a phenomenon. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense. Well, obviously it doesn't make any sense. You know, it's insane. Oh, this is probably going to be dicey. But somebody has done it previous to me. Oh, they were fucking insane. Yeah, no, better men than me, right? God, I really don't. Well, see, they're going the other way. The other way looks less intimidating, right? I mean, this rock is bad. That's just damn slippery. I mean, I'm on a piece of ice here. Ew. I don't like this. But the water's not very deep. So what's the worst that can happen, right? Probably should scrape up some junk. Throw some junk on here. Maybe it's easier to scrape it up over there. But then there wouldn't be any on this side. Alright. Slight detour. Scrape up some junk. Should be some junk here. That's the problem. All the rocks are probably frozen. If they are. And let's see. Maybe on the side here. This might be a good place to get some rocks. Well, it isn't good, but it's better than nothing. Ugh. That might help a little. I don't know. One handful. I don't feel like making trip after trip. Yeah. Anyway. So yeah, but you know, there's no point in having philosophy if you're going to negate the meaning of, you know, really important stuff. It doesn't look like that's going to do much, but let's see. It's better. I like it. Shit. I don't know I'm going to end up in the water. I just know it. I just know it. I know it, Davey. If I was a younger man with better balance, I wouldn't be intimidated. But, you know, age is taking its toll and all that. It's not even age, it's just this ear thing. Yeah, swimming, it's ruined me. But who cares, right? It's worth it for swimming. Alright. So where was I? I think I brought my e-cigarette with me. Alright. So continuing. know, I've said all this stuff before, so that's the real bottom line, is that I have to just quit responding to people who are belligerent to what has already been stated and restated and explained is, you know, it's just so in such minutia that it really can't be escaped anymore. I mean, I have qualified the vocabulary and explained the simple nature of the philosophy, which is just a recognition of our psychology. We can see how our psychology works. That it is a mechanism that establishes this idea of sensation, and it applies it, projects it onto things in the environment, you know, based on what they make happen to us. And those value projections from nature have no credibility. There's having any connection to right or wrong in any kind of logical way. We can enjoy things that are very hurtful to other things by nature's rules, by innate default conditioning, and that can be understood to be inefficient and ineffective to gameplay. That's the destruction of the pawn, the destruction of something else's welfare to gain your own gratification, which is less than zero-sum play. That creates the nature of the creation of the negative, is that we can be very expensive in acquisition of our comfortable sensations. And we can have a capacity to be discomforted by superficial and clearly idiotic things, like my Lamborghini has a scratch in it. You know, the silly things that can motivate people to go to extraordinarily wasteful lengths to correct circumstances that really don't need correcting. They only need correcting because your psychology is shit. Yeah, so the basic argument is we're not magnificent creatures, we're just psychologies. And like if we were examining any animal colony or any group of animals, we could clearly understand the trade-offs being made for existence, and we would be able to understand when there was, you know, too much pain for too little gain kind of thing, in terms of, you know, if it was a laboratory rat. Some of you people might be able to say that an experiment is unethical because you're torturing these sensitive creatures, and what you will gain as a byproduct is of insufficient value to justify torture. Yeah, so and there's the economics. So the kernel is the sensations created in sentient beings. That creates the currency, the bills, the debt, and the you know, I'm trying to find a good analogy. It creates the gold and the debt slips, I guess you could say, the IOUs. There's a long way to put it. I mean, it's the same, you know, unfortunately, it is perfectly synonymous in the sense that the truth of the matter is, like the economy, it's all negative money. Money's created as a debt, and in the same sense, positive value that we glean is the payment of a negative condition. And the argument is you never needed to create this jet engine in the first place. So that, yes, the currency of this exchange taking place are the sensations that fall into the category of positive or negative. You pay for the price of the positive sensations with some measure of negative sensation, and it's just a matter of whether you pay or somebody else pays. But it doesn't matter who pays. The currency is the same in sense of any sentient suffering is sentient suffering, and it has to be part of the accounting. So as you walk through your life, there's an entire biosphere that is paying for your oxygen production and paying for much of the climate you exist in. They are required to eke existences in this environment to create the environment. And then, of course, there's other things we do that are more directly harmful, in terms of, rewarding people for manufacturing pets, and, the torture of animals and farms for food. These are more direct impositions where it's just more obvious, that you're buying your comfort at something else's discomfort. It's quite obvious. And so begins a conversation about ethics. And once you establish the existence of value, then you can start talking about rational, reasonable equations, and what the right thing to do is, what the logical response to the circumstances, best solutions. It's probably another word other than solution, because it really is just a reaction. But the problem is that it always is a problem. And the strict definition of a problem would be finding not a solution, but first it has to be qualified as a good enough solution. And then ideally, you'd always want the best solution. Just makes logical sense. Yeah, I'm probably better off just running through the water. Yeah, it's very thin here, water. Slippery, but thin. See, I'm walking on the rocks. So it almost looks like a woman's boot. She's very talented. Anyway. So, not the best video, but I don't know, conditions are a little distracting. Yeah. On the accusation of calling this philosophy religion, it's just an insane comparison. There's absolutely no presumptions being made, no assumptions that have any biased function. It's just some fair observation of what it is to find oneself on Earth and describe the circumstance. What piece of evidence or reasoning in the defense of this philosophy relies on any kind of supernatural assumptions or presumptions of anything magical? It's magical to say I can tell the difference between pain and pleasure. I don't think so. I don't think that's a magical statement. Anyway, enough. Until next time and such. Yeah. but inevitable, as they say. Anyway, until next time. Ah, back. Cigarette. Yeah, I only got 2 left. See if I can hold one out for tonight. Oh, mouse. Yeah. Anyway, Hythloday, continuing. So anyway, subjective religiosity of Inmendham's value. He has felt it. All praise. Amen. So again, it just speaks for itself. Somehow, if you define our consciousness as a byproduct of nature, that's a religion. Okay, fine. Whatever. There's 14 minutes of this 13, so I better keep my interruptions to a minimum.
Inmendham, in one of his tirades, is like, you inarticulate fuck. Just had to begin with this.
Oh, another quote mine. What a surprise. Yeah, I shouldn't even bother responding, but to tirade, yeah, the responses to your accusations, idiot, that's right. So I'm going to respond to some motherfucker cunt who just makes accusations and backs them up with nothing. Yeah, that's what I want to do.
The hatchet job to the concepts and the ideas.
Oops.
It's incredible. So incredibility.
I'm incredible.
It's beyond.
I think he was looking to say.
Yeah, I didn't say you're incredible, actually. So, again, you couldn't even get that part right. Since you misparaphrased again, when it's right in front of you. I said, it's incredible, right? Not you. It's. Your preposterous behavior is incredible. Your insipid, insane arguments are incredible. Your willingness to use catch-22 tactics is incredible. Yes. Anyway, and so, yeah, the fact that I stumbled on a word in the video, I defy anybody to play the whole hour-long video and not say, yes, it was a pretty articulate explanation of some very complex points, and it was said very quickly and very concisely and very well for 99% of the video. And one portion, I had a little trip on a word, and that's what he used. And so just think of all the Hythloday videos and how easy it would be for me to quote mine them, to cut all of his hems and his haws and his, oh, that's not what I was trying to say, all his crap, and make a video out of it. And I could do that, but I'm not a petty weasel. So, yeah, I don't bother.
I stray incredulity, but the dumb, brain fuck-tided wanker, you know, has no room to preach about articulating oneself. Right, let's pull up the note.
Well, whatever. I think I do have plenty of room to do that. Yeah, so you go ahead and point out somebody who's a match for it, asshole, and I'll take them on. Yeah, but I don't see anybody. And a Kantavat. A man who never answers a question.
We've got a guy, right? In the one moment says, in the early part of this video, he's saying, I can't give you a proof. Why should I have to give you a proof? God doesn't.
So again, he can't. Another misparaphrase, right? I can't give you a material proof. All I can give you is a logical proof. I can't materially put consciousness on a plate and dissect it for you. Can't be done. Yet. And I don't think even when you had the parts together, you could still connect the material to the non-material sponge, fudge, mush, that is the actual consciousness. But the fact of its reality is learned through experience. Having one is a huge advantage. You don't understand that? You don't understand that simple argument. Having a consciousness is a huge advantage into knowing what it's like to be conscious. Yeah, I think it is. You fuck.
Wrote value on a stone saying, this is value. How can I give you a proof of something that we can't prove?
Again, this is just like I said, you can't be more of a liar, okay? I told you, I said material proof. I didn't say there's not a logical proof, and the logical proof is in what I consider decisive evidence, which is my own eyewitness testimony. I was at the scene of the crime. I saw it fucking happen. All right? I'm having conscious experiences. I don't need any evidence external. It's happening to me, you dumb ass. I'm assuming you, like I said, the premise of the conversation is that you're all so conscious. If you're not conscious, I said, I can't explain it to you. So if you don't know that there's a world of difference between a nail in your eye and a cupcake, if you don't know that as a truth, as a fact, and a world of value difference, then I can't help you.
Later on in the video, saying, so you asked for a proof, and I'm giving you the proof with reason and telling you, and this is the key bit. And I remember him exploding in one of our interviews where he says, I explain it because I personally experienced it. And I said to him, and he blew up, of course, and it still seems to go over his head, that citing personal experience as the basis for a conclusion is the definition of subjectivity.
Well, yeah, so do you agree with that? Is that your agreement, that every time you witness something, a scientific experiment, you've subjectified it by witnessing it? That every time you do mathematics and you write on a piece of paper and you observe it, you've now subjectified it? That it's no longer absolutely true that 2 + 2 = 4 because you are subjectifying it through your interpretation, through the idea that you're experiencing it as an event? You're looking at the equation, therefore it's an event? Obviously this is nonsense. Absolute fucking nonsense. That, like I said, this is stuff I think even a 10-year-old could say, wait a minute, there's a logical problem with that. All witness testimony is now corrupt. It's all, you can't trust it. We can't trust our senses. Oh yeah, you want to make the argument we're in a matrix. Okay, go ahead, make it. And you're saying I'm religious. You're the one using completely bogus, supernatural, my senses are deceiving me bullshit, made out of nothing. No evidence that my senses are deceiving me. No evidence that consciousness is not happening. And yet you're resorting to the delusional, I'm going to make up some other theory and say that's why your theory's no good, is because there's all these other things I can make up out of nothing, out of no evidence. I think you're the religious kook.
The very same subjectivity which causes him to blow up and have a isifit upon isifit upon isifit.
Well, whatever. You can call them that. There's no point, right? You're an obnoxious troll, okay, to logical conversation because you don't know what words mean. It's not the definition of subjective. The definition of subjective is not every single thing that's ever interpreted by a human being. Every single event, every single data point, every single historical entry, every single bookkeeper's numbers in a book, every single thing that any human ever does is subjective. That is just plain bullshit as a definition of the word subjective.
Against myself, against me pointing out the gap and the contradiction here between how he gets from me agreeing with nail in the eye being worse than cupcake to not only
again, let's not argue, okay? Every single time you said, nail, I have agreed, your agreement was only that you personally experience it that way. You will not apply it to consciousness in general. You will not apply this simple logic that, yes, I have a brain, I'm a mammal, my brain works this basic way. I will accept the premise that all the other mammalian brains work, generally speaking, in this same manner, that nail in the eye is universally not a pleasant event for any mammalian brain to experience. No, you won't do that. So that's where the conversation ends, because yes, logically, that is my philosophy. I believe animals feel. I believe other human beings feel. I believe they have qualitative experience that has to be accounted for. I cannot win by vampiring or consuming some other human's welfare. That is the logic, okay? And if you won't take that step of a premise and say that, oh yes, my experience as a conscious organism equates to the experience of other conscious organisms, then that's the end of our conversation. We could just agree to say, fuck you, you're insane.
Being that nail in his eye is worse for him than Cupcake, but in asking how he jumps from the one statement, such that, I mean, if he can demonstrate the kind of thing that he means, any instance of, you know, a nail in his eye actually being bad for me, well, then he would win his argument.
Again, he's saying that you have to be able to subjectify anything for anything to be called bad. If it's not bad for you personally, it therefore is not bad. So if I don't like Jews, it's okay if Jews are slaughtered in concentration camps. That's his logic. If I don't care for rats or cats or dogs or pigs or whatever it is, doesn't matter. You can torture them to the end of time and therefore nothing took place because it didn't affect me. That's not rational philosophy. Philosophy is about the entire game of chess. It is not about your fucking pawn. Your queen, okay? Queen for a day guy. You're the queen on the chessboard and you're saying it only matters what happens to me. Am I supposed to think that's logical or sensible? I've just pointed out how I think consciousness is spread in all these organisms, that what happens to them matters. It's just as of equal value what happens to this brain. There's nothing distinctive about this brain's welfare and the brain welfare, the welfare of those other brains. Absolutely nothing distinctive except this one's riding on this material body. That's it. There's nothing else distinctive about it. It is doing exactly the same thing. It is producing exactly the same thing. Why the fuck would I have a rational excuse to sit there and say it doesn't matter if it's not, if it doesn't hurt me, it doesn't hurt anybody? That's illogical. There's no harm as long as the harm doesn't happen to me. That is illogical. That's not illogical. It's fucking insane.
He knows he can't. He just wants to save the animals, and everybody who wants to save the animals, you know, with similar ignorant...
whatever. I want to save the victims, okay? I couldn't use the word victims. I used it like, what, 49 times in the goddamn video, so clearly whether the victim is an animal or a human, it doesn't matter to me. That's true. And yes, there happens to be a lot more animals than there are humans, so I guess that would be the proprietary, the place you would look is the place where most of them exist. So yes, most mammalian brains are not human brains. That is true.
Passion and fervor just goes along with him because he's such a vehement vegetarian.
Right. So that's what it's all about. The only reason why they go for it is because they have some warm, fuzzy feeling for animals, and that's why they logically understand that when somebody else is in pain, it doesn't have to hurt them personally for it to be a fact that they're in pain and to be a fact that it's a bad thing. When 6 million Jews are in concentration camps, slowly dying and being tortured to death, I don't have to like Jews for me to recognize the fact that this is not a good thing. I mean, you know, I took so much heat for all this Holocaust denial shit. This guy's denying all suffering that ever took place on planet Earth. So get it right, okay? You want to fucking worry about denials, okay? This is the kind of denialer that you ought to fear, motherfuckers. And it's the kind of denial that you're giving 5 thumbs up so far. He's denying the suffering of all victims of all time. He doesn't give them any value, meaning whatsoever, because he didn't know them personally and he didn't care about them personally. Therefore, they don't matter. That's his fucking insane philosophy, and you're rewarding it. There's a word for that. It's called stupid.
He knows in his mind there are places he can't go. The people who subscribe to his philosophy know there are places they can't go. And so
these aren't accusations, right? This is what he calls a question? Right, sure.
Reaction is anger and attack, rather than go those places.
Whatever. There's no place you're going that I haven't been 5 million times. So this is just such a pile of crap. And again, I'm asking again, where's this place? Where's this magical place you're talking about? Oh, you mean denial? Yeah, that's right. I can't deny the existence of other mammalian brains. That's right. I'm not as big an asshole as you, where I say I'm going to deny the basic function of them and call myself super. I'm human, I'm therefore super, and therefore I don't have to account for any of that other stuff. If that isn't religion, I don't know what the fuck is.
Points that are made. He knows that if he goes over there, he has no chance of realizing his wanted, needed conclusion that we all must be vegetarians. I respect.
I don't even understand this point of bringing up the vegetarian thing. I've already said 5 million times. I don't care whether you're vegetarian. What I care is what you advocate for. Okay? You want to do something that is fundamentally unethical and indecent, go ahead and do it. Just don't advocate that people in the future do that. Just don't pretend that it's not exactly what it is, which is a taking, a raping. So you want to rape, I'm just saying, okay, if that's what you got to do, go ahead, be a motherfucking cunt rapist. But don't sit there and say you just did some kind of brilliant thing. Don't tell me you're God and you just did a wonderful thing for the universe, because you goddamn didn't. What you did was you consumed another animal's welfare for your own gratification. That's all you goddamn did, is you took something because you wanted it and there's no other reason. Okay, there's no reason to it. There's no rationality to it. You just took it because you're a selfish fuck. Period.
Vegetarian principles and vegetarians for their compassion and empathy, and I share much of it.
What a preposterous lie. We've already heard your critique of the beasties. Yeah, fuck you.
I'm an advocate for the treating of animals compassionately, and I've always been...
Yeah, whatever that means. Yeah. Compassionate to the new slavery. You're for the new slavery. You know, that's like George Bush's, what is it? What was it? Capitalism with compassion or something. Yeah, fuck you.
An animal lover. But unfortunately, the arguments being made by Inmendham do not hold water.
Again, let's understand the argument being made by Inmendham, which is conscious beings create value by having conscious experience that has qualitative elements intrinsically. There are fundamentally, the feelings we have are fundamentally, intrinsically, of a negative or positive value quotient. That's the theory. Ooh, how daring and bold.
Okay. He says, to my objection that he's mischaracterizing me, and that he's not using my words, going through this video does not constitute addressing earlier arguments. So if you want to say in this video...
Yeah, well, again, go ahead, point out in a past video some point where I played your clip and I didn't respond to what you were saying. Go ahead, find it, show it. Show me running away from your argument. Again, I'm playing your fucking video, you're making your goddamn points, and I'm making as honest an effort as I possibly can to understand what your fucking idiotic point is and making a response to it. Unlike you, who is just sitting there quote mining and taking clips that aren't even representative of the video. Are you saying that the clip where I'm stammering over one word for 60 seconds is representative of that hour-long video? Well, of course it's not. So again, you're just being deceptive and dishonest. You fuck.
Video in which I'm posing several questions refer back to some other alleged mischaracterization. You need to quote then. You need to say, in this video, back in this opportunity, you said this. Yeah, it's just going through the video is not quoting me. not quoting my meaning at that time.
Yeah, again, I'm not going to do that. It was already nauseating enough to watch your videos the first fucking time. I'm not going to go through them again to try to find some inarticulate, asshole, idiotic question like how do you prove bad is bad. Okay, I don't need to go find idiotic questions. But I said if you have some legitimate question that you think I have not addressed by either calling it idiotic and beneath answering, if you have some legitimate question, I'll answer it. But you don't have any of those. What's your question? You can't prove bad is bad? Well, fuck you then, okay? I'm just not going to have that conversation. There's just no goddamn point. You want to pretend that conscious experience doesn't have a substantive value to it, that doesn't matter how many people you torture in concentration camps. It doesn't make any difference. You can't tell the difference. You can't opine on the subject for a few seconds and figure out that yeah, it's got to mean something. It can't mean nothing. Well, you can believe it doesn't mean nothing. I don't believe it means nothing. And apparently there are people, nihilist, motherfucking, selfish, insane cunts like yourself who believe that that's possible. But I don't think, I can't imagine how it could possibly be possible. I can't bend or distort or pervert my brain into any kind of position where I could possibly find it possible to imagine that it doesn't matter how many things you torture. Yeah, I just can't do that shit for brain.
You're not saying, oh, earlier in the video when you said this, I can understand this. Yeah? That doesn't count. As for me mischaracterizing him, no. I mean, I said there's 3 strands. Okay. Hands up. I was wrong. There's only 2. Yeah? Big fucking deal. The point is,
well, it is sort of a big deal, okay? It's like 33% versus 50%. So, yeah, it's a big deal. 22% or whatever.
He's answered the kind of question and said, the other one really is subsumed by the value aspect. And that's fine. And I learn and I integrate that and it will never be dealt and put forward again. I'm happy, in fact, because it means it also doesn't hold water.
Well, there you go. See, so the fact that you combine 2 facts together, you say there's a door called suffering and you have to have a good reason to open it. So now you're saying, and so the fact that now you're saying there have to be a good reason to open it, he's going to negate that. He's going to say that doesn't exist anymore. You don't have to have any reason to open the door called suffering, because we're negating this idea of any purpose existing. No, there still has to be a purpose. You still have to come up with some reason to open the door. And the argument is you're not going to find one out there in the universe. You're not going to find a purpose that we serve to justify opening the suffering door. You have to find some purpose that is innate within the human function. And that purpose you're not going to find because, yes, all of those things are just unnecessary needs that you're serving. You're only fixing things you broke by being here.
He says, oh, no, nobody goes on about it. The man has made 1,000 videos or more complaining about the purposelessness of life.
No, that's us. Again, so that's an honest characterization. That's not an honest character. I mention it, I just point out, yes, we're not healing any wounds in the universe, just like the non-existent Martians don't exist, and there's no bloody wound that says we need a Martian to fix this. There's no problem the non-existent Martians are creating.
Many of his banners that he waves are totally drawing one's attention to the purposelessness of life, like gladiator wars and this, that, and the other.
Well, again, this, that, and the other. So, what's the point? Again, you know, these are the key philosophical points. So, I mean, if you're going to sit there and negate them, again, where's the room for a conversation? This is just plain fucking idiotic. Yeah, I spent all these videos basically defending the metaphor of gladiator war. That's right, and it's a significant reality. If that's the reality, if that's all we're doing, well, just as we banned bullfighting and banned dogfighting and banned cockfighting, we'd have to ban idiotic, moronic gladiator war too, wouldn't we? Fuckhead.
Well, it is the emphasize and bring out the weight upon which it's all predicated upon this I've personally experienced, so it is value statement. Okay, this subjective attitude he has.
So again, it's subjective. So again, I can't acknowledge the fact of consciousness's existence by using the testimony of my own conscious experience. I somehow have to make the argument from non-consciousness. How, you know, again, not possible. Even in his apples and oranges metaphor from the video before, if you took apples and oranges and you took away all other fruit and all you had was an apple and you had nothing to, you had no orange to compare it to, you had nothing else to compare it to, no other fruit, wouldn't it be more difficult to do it? Wouldn't it be more difficult to explain it to somebody if they weren't allowed to eat it or taste it? Yeah, it would.
Again, he calls me that I'm trying to make the whole thing subjective. That's because it is. That's because he is the epitome of subjectiveness.
Right. Again, I can't make this. I'll make this one last time, right? So he's saying all information gleaned. I can't call this a battery because it's based on my subjective experience of batteries. And every experience I've had with a battery is a subjective experience. But I learned nothing from those experiences. They have no information value. They're all corrupted by some sort of subjective horniness or feeling or emotion or some other subjective element of psychology. There's no knowledge gained through personal interaction with these things. I gained no knowledge of its function, of its significance in the universe, of its material elements. None of those things have any value whatsoever because I'm relying on my personal experience. I gained knowledge through personal experience. That's his argument. Is it valid? Do you think there's any other way to know consciousness besides personally tasting it? Just think for yourself for a minute. Could you ever really know consciousness without personally tasting it? Is there any other way to do it? Do you really think a machine, a computer, could ever really understand what it is to feel horny if it never felt horny? Fuck.
I put it, any such argument which is based upon a feeling is by definition an intuition, an emotion.
So he's saying my being conscious and acknowledging my consciousness is basing my understanding on a feeling. So he's saying the fact that I'm testifying that I have experienced consciousness is interpreting my consciousness as a feeling. So I'm actually feeling about what it is to feel. I'm not thinking about what it is to feel. No, I'm automatically feeling about it. So that's his perversion again, a distortion. Again, this is just, you just blow up all reality with this definition of subjective. This definition of subjective means why would you have any conversation with any other person, because you could just say you're delusional. You experience that through personal experiences, and personal experiences are invalidated. You can't be educated through personal experience.
Generated. If you can't make some concrete truth statements about it and you're just saying I feel this way because I felt it, then that by definition is a subjective.
Again, so again, he's just, I'm going to do it again because he keeps doing it again. He keeps arguing that somehow you can't learn anything, okay, that's not subjective, that isn't tainted by subjectivity, that you can't know a fact. You can't step on a scale, read how much you weigh, and know that information without somehow it being corrupted because it's a subjective interpretation of the numbers on the dial. Sorry. I mean, if you can't say no sale to this crap. I mean, there's so many analogies you could give to this, right? I mean, you could say that, look, people go skydiving. I don't really see the point in it. But clearly they learn something by doing it. They're doing it partly because they have an ambition or a feeling that's about their ego, about feeling alive or feeling some kind of emotion. But clearly by doing it, they gain information. They gain information about wind speed, and they gain information about the sensations you feel when you're skydiving. So although it's a subjective experience, they gain knowledge through the experience, do they not?
Sometimes you use the question, well, what else is there? I've even heard logic rolls the dice plead to what else is there. Well, that isn't even an argument. Okay? If you need
it is an argument in not the way you stated it, but a slight modification of the way you said it. It really is important. A truth, integrity, a statement of fact, its integrity as a statement of fact is largely dependent on whether or not there exists a better alternative statement. If there's a statement that says it better or says something different just as well, then that corrupts the statement of fact's integrity. It makes it weaker. Now, if you have an alternative theory of reality, well, let's hear it. But it's, in my opinion, it's going to be so idiotic and so preposterous that only somebody who's trying to rationalize being a selfish cunt could make it make any sense.
Explaining to that, you're dumber and stupider and more ignorant of logic and fallacies than I can help, I think. If I say I understand what makes life worth living,
that's not the question of what makes life worth living for you, right? Again, so that's not the argument being made here. The argument being made here is if you were to do the rational calculation, it's not about, again, it's not about whether you want to go to the World Series. It's not about whether you want to see the Mets win the World Series. The argument is, would you kill 5 kids to have a World Series? That's the argument. The argument's a rational argument about what you're actually doing, not what you're emotionally doing.
And you've never felt the love of a woman. You've never had love of a woman, love for a woman in the intimate sense. And because you've not felt it, you can't tell me that that singular aspect of humanity does not make the whole of life and this evolution game worth it. Because
anybody can argue that. Anybody could argue from their diversity. A woman could argue you've never been a woman, so you don't know what life really is, and giving forth and blah blah blah. A homosexual could say because you've never been a homosexual, you don't know what sex even is. You're so out of the loop. A circumcised man could make comments about an uncircumcised man. Yes, there's lots of personal circumstances that make us different than other people. Now you're saying there's a significant enough difference. You're saying you're saying I should find this argument credible, that you've had a personal experience so wonderful that you would kill kids for it. You would give kids cancer to have it. I'm saying that no, I think it's only a jolly, like every other jolly we all have, and you haven't given me any evidence or any indication of how it's super jolly. Okay, how your jollies are better than my jollies. So again, a homosexual would say his sex is 100 times better than heterosexual sex. He could say it's 1,000,000 times. But you know, is he going to really realistically be able to say that his human mechanism of a penis and a brain creates 1,000,000 times more pleasure than the heterosexual experience? I don't think he's going to be able to do that with any kind of credibility. So until you come up with something more than love, that's absolutely useless. So you're going to have to explain how your love of a woman versus my love of a fantasy is somehow superior. Good luck.
I've tasted it. It's visceral. These are your words, Inmendham.
These are my words to explain the difference between being conscious and being unconscious. 2 dramatically obvious different states of being that we both experience. All right, and how, yes, the consciousness has to be felt. You have to do this thing where you feel it, because that's what it is. It's a feeling thing. All right, so yeah, and so if you don't see the sensibility of making a distinction between non-conscious and conscious, and saying that you have to use some sort of word to describe why consciousness is different, and I just did it in my example. I used the taste thing because it has that real you know, good to bad right there. It's right there. In terms of creating an immediate reaction of good or bad. So how else do I metaphor it? There's no other, like I said, I can't compare consciousness to something else. If there was something else available where I could say how it's not like an orange, I would do that. But there's nothing else to compare consciousness to.
You for your definition. If I was to, indeed I do, I feel the presence of God. He moves within me, he's inspired me, and now I know there's something even greater than love.
Right, so that's an honest statement, right? See, I'm making an honest statement about consciousness. I'm saying I've been conscious, I know what these things are like. I'm afraid of being burned to death in a car accident. I'm afraid of a lot of things because I know how bad they're going to be, and that's an honest statement. You're not making any honest statements here. You're not honestly making an argument that you know love better than other men, or even better than other animals. You're not making an honest statement in any of this. This is all just something you just made up. And so now you're mimicking a religious person and telling me that somehow has credibility when you're just overtly making it up. Just like every religious person overtly made it up. Right? There's no argument to that. I can't, look, if somebody honestly says, look, the spook says he saw a fucking UFO in his house. I don't deny his sensual experience, the fact that he saw it. I just don't know, I can't account for it. I can't account for it. I can't say anything about it. All I can say is there's no evidence anywhere of this stuff being real, so I'm sorry, but the only thing I can do is draw a conclusion that's delusional. And if somebody thinks they're talking to God, I'm going to say the same thing. They might actually be talking to God, but I'm saying from previous examples, we know that that's usually not the answer. The answer is the brain is broken, not the reality is different. So if you're going to make a claim that you're having a different reality and you're talking to God, well, yeah, you're probably going to have to overcome the fact that every other individual who's ever done that has been demonstrated in some way or another to be a kook. So good luck with that.
It's the Almighty. Until you feel that shiver and know that He's touched you deep inside and given you insight into the cosmos and all the paradoxical questions of physics and the immaterial and boundless questions that we...
Yeah, well, the religious people don't have any of that, do they? See, if they had that, then they could demonstrate the reality of their what they're claiming to have happened. If God told them something that was actually useful information, they conveyed it to us and demonstrated that they could predict the future or do something useful, well, then we would believe them. That's the whole reason why we don't believe them, is because they aren't doing anything extraordinary. They're doing the same thing we do. And so they have they're not making a good argument defending the integrity of their experience as a real experience. I don't think I'm having a problem defending the integrity of my real experience, knowing that there are sensations that are pleasant and sensations that are unpleasant. I don't think I'm going too extraordinarily bizarre there. I think everybody can sort of understand that one.
Till you feel His touch, you cannot comment, because now I understand that.
Yeah, right. And if that happened to you, if it really happened to you in a sincere way, where you sincerely believed you talked to God, would you not be confident? Would you not say, yeah, this is the truth. I experienced it, fuckheads. I saw the fucker. He was in my living room. I had a conversation with him. And would it not give you more evidence of the truth if he did reveal certain things to you that, yes, you're saying this is the truth? You know, that was actual evidence of something. It's hard to describe something like the nature of photons or something, and maybe he didn't give you all the mathematical equations to prove it to everybody, but he did tell you, yes, it's all made out of photons. So he did give you some magic, but he didn't give you the whole magic pile. But anyway, you'd have reason to say I'm right, because it fit, it makes sense, and it started making other things make sense. So you'd have a reason to be confident. Well, what can I say to that person? I can't make an argument to that person, can I? Is there something I could possibly say that's going to change the fact that they witnessed it? Again, I'm witnessing my consciousness. You're making an argument to me that, oh, don't worry about that, it doesn't mean anything. It's just electricity. There's no real event. Nothing to see here. I'm saying, well, I think that's ludicrous. I think it's ludicrous for me. I think it's ludicrous for the pig. I think it's ludicrous for the other people. I think it's ludicrous for the Holocaust victims. I think that suffering really did happen and it really did mean something. So I think your theory that it doesn't mean anything is crap. Now, you believe it. Why? Not because God told you. Why do you believe that there's no meaning to feelings beyond your own? Because you're a solipsistic lunatic, right? There's nothing else to say. You think you're the universe. Okay, well, that sounds a little loopy to me, buddy.
Tasted it, I felt it, the visceral touch of God. God is the answer. God, we are here for God. He is the supreme reason that makes everything okay. These arguments are of exactly the same subjective character that Inmendham poses. And
so they're exactly the same, right? It's not like everybody feels God, right? So we know it's not exactly the same in that everybody knows that nail in the eye is bad, right? So I'm making an argument that is not extraordinary. I'm not making an extraordinary claim when I say there's a huge difference between nail in your eye and a cupcake. That's not an extraordinary claim. That's a quite ordinary claim. Okay, so when somebody claims that God blah 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 and nobody else is experiencing that, well then that's an extraordinary claim and it does require extraordinary evidence. I'm not required to produce extraordinary evidence that nail in the eye is a qualitatively worse state than eating a cupcake. Fuck.
Why it is Inmendham's religion. This is why Inmendham is bigoted and
well, whatever. So he's calling it a religious dogma to believe that it matters, again, that it matters when conscious organisms are in a negative discomfort state. That's significant. It's a significant event in the universe. Not an insignificant event, a significant event in the universe. And that whenever possible or practical or anything, there is the ought to correct for that circumstance. If there's an elephant on anything's toe, we should try to move the elephant.
And blind to his own religiosity. I have to finish. I mean, the man will say, what question, what question, what question? I've made videos literally repeating where he said there were no questions there, and I've demonstrated that the man cannot see questions. He said I'd mischaracterized him. I cut a quote, so I've played like I've gone from a 10-second quote to like a 30 or a minute-long quote to ask, was the meaning changed where I quoted there? And does it evoke response from him to say, oh, well, yeah, you weren't mischaracterizing me there. The meaning was changed by the wider context, etc., etc.
No, there was no meaning change. There was no. These arguments were never deceptive. No one ever argued that because there's no purpose, that means you have to overtly go out and eliminate something because it's purposeless. No, the only reason why you have to do something about something is because it's in a negative state and you have to correct for that. Duh. The ought is built out of the negative. It's not built out of a neutral. Neutrals do not create oughts. Negatives create oughts.
Man is a liar, right? The man is an outright, blatant, obvious liar. He will distort the truth. He will stay away from anything that's are weak areas of his argument because he's devoted so much time to this endeavor.
Yeah, again, so another video of accusations. He brings up these questions again. He doesn't ask the questions. No, he just makes more accusations. So fine, whatever, asshole. I think you're a colossal motherfucking idiot. All right? I think you're a malicious idiot and a desperate idiot. Okay? You have a desperately sick psychology trying to rationalize your useless and petty existence that you know you want. And you hate yourself so much that you want to kill yourself. So at least part of you understands you're a petty weasel and you should be killed. So at least part of you has got it right.
philosophy that, well, what is prompted by it is nothing short of utter humiliation.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I'm so humiliated and so afraid of your brilliant arguments. That's why I play your fucking goddamn video, wait for you to say something and say, yeah, what? What did he just say there? Did he make an argument? Did he say something that has any evidence to back it up? No. He just made an argument from, I just made up some shit I don't really believe as an example of what you're doing. Wow, that's some fucking god